Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to CW Live. I'm delighted to be joined by National Officer Mark Baulch. Hey, Mark, how you doing, mate?
Good afternoon, mate. Yeah, I'm all right. Yourself?
Yeah, really good, really good. You all know, you've all seen that we've got so much going on this week. We've got, obviously, which we're talking about later on, we've got a strike in BT Group and Open Reach Friday and Monday, which is a big thing for the union. But just as big as that, we've got a second ballot in Royal Mail with papers going out on Wednesday, landing from Thursday, first class. And it's so critical that you vote. And you vote yes in that ballot, and we turn out just as good, if not a better result than we did in the first ballot. So the first thing to say before I bring Mark in is we know that many of our delivery members will still be working, but we wanted to grab Mark, and also we wanted to show how transparent we are by just going live, because that's how confident we are in the issues and in the cause. That we're going to ask you to support when the ballot papers land this week. So the session will be available to watch on catch up. But the aim of this session, I think, Mark, is just to run through the changes that Royal Mail are seeking in deliveries, particularly under your sort of direction, and then talk through some of the CWU positions. But I wondered if there was sort of an opening position for you in terms of the members obviously have voted last week in huge number, record numbers for the trade union movement. Both in terms of turnout and yes vote, did us so proud last week, and then it's almost like, well done, let's go again, and we're into the ballot on change. But obviously, I wondered if you could maybe tell the members why, first of all, just an overall starting position of how we got here, and just as crucially, why it's so important they vote on Thursday and onwards.
Yeah, it's absolutely critical that you support your union again. And first of all, what a fantastic result! That was absolutely brilliant. It couldn't really be better. Well, I suppose it could, but only by a few percentage points. I mean, that really is a stunning result, and we were really pleased and taken aback by that. But why the second vote and why the second ballot? I think we've been clear all the way through the campaign that there's two separate issues. One has been very clearly on pay, which is the ballot that you've already voted overwhelmingly to support, and that is the fact that to refresh really, and I do think it is important because we submitted a pay claim to the company back in February. We could see what was happening in the world around us. We very alive to the facts of the cost of living crisis, the pressure that everyone was under and is under still, which is exacerbated. Actually, it hasn't decreased. All this narrative around wage increases, spirals inflation. Well, it couldn't be further from the truth, because many trade unions still have not had decent pay rises, and still still inflation is rampant. So we made the decision to split the issues and deal with that. It was the company who made it conditional initially on any pay increase, a number of changes, which we'll talk through in a little bit of detail in a minute. And it was the union who said, no, the two issues are separate. We know some of the things that the company wanted to talk around, require some quite complex negotiations, and therefore we didn't want the two issues tangled together and end up in months and months of talks. The company then decided to delink and impose 2%, which we all know about. But now, why the second ballot is because, and I think you've seen it, everyone's been written to, and you would have seen the AGM last week. The company have been very clear in their communications, and both to you directly, but also through the media, around the change agenda. And so, it is really important that you back us on combating those unacceptable proposals.
Thanks, Mark. Obviously, so I want to talk a little bit about, well, quite a lot about the change. The other thing I want to talk to you about, and perhaps put to you now, is it's not long, is it, until people get their ballot papers? It's just a few days now. Just how important it is. We'll have all of our local reps watching, won't we? And area reps and branches have done such a fantastic job building us up for that big ballot result just last week. How important is it this week that we see a CW meeting in every office in the country?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, one of the things, and I know through the comms department yourself, Chris, the images that you get, and it's really inspiring when you see all those pictures of people on different gates and canteens in various restrooms, etc., right across the the entire UK, because you can communicate in lots of formats, and this is another one of them, and it has a place, and you can write out letters, communications, etc., but you can't beat face to face, eyeball to eyeball. And so look, really, and plus it gives you the opportunity to hopefully inspire people as well, and to rally them and give them a rallying call and a rallying cry in order to get the ballot papers back in. We know it is a short time scale, but it's important, and we thought to do it that way because tactically we want to be in a place where we have two very separate ballots and two very separate massive yes votes in order to give us the maximum or enable us to exert the maximum amount of pressure on the employer, armed with both of those massive yes votes in a relatively short space of time. So we're heading towards, we're heading towards August. It will soon be September. Obviously, that is a critical period in terms of workload and putting the company under pressure.
Thanks, Mark. Also to say to the members watching Voter Sessions Live, we are going through sort of Royal Mail's proposals bit by bit to sort of get every point across to you. So we're not taking questions yet, partially also because I've left my laptop too far away so I can't see them. But now the main thing is we're going through the change. So just to point out, Mark and I were discussing before, these changes you can see there on the screen, direct quotes from Royal Mail as well. So I'm going to ask Mark, I'm going to run through these, and obviously the ones that impact delivery members and all members, and ask you a question. I'm going to kick off with flexible hours and flexibility, Mark, if we can. And the question of what is in effect annualized hours, I think is the easiest way to phrase it. Where Royal Mail is saying here, we'd like our core team to work more in the winter and less in the summer. This could be between 32 and 44 hours a week, depending on season and mail volumes. They're saying they don't want to be reliant on temporary workers. That's why they're doing it. They're the good guys. Yeah. What would be the union's position on that?
I think the union's position on it has been, we've always been prepared to look at different seasonal variation, because one of the things that, particularly in delivery, which is deeply unpopular, is lapsing during the summer months. So in actual fact, we said to Royal Mail, and it's in our policy forum document as well, that we would be prepared to have a look at and trial some ideas around different seasonal arrangements. That could mean less hours, it could mean more leave, it could mean a different variety of things. It could mean that some people, if they wanted more leave over the course of the year, work less hours, but they get the same pay sort of equalised. But what we're not into, and we've always made that clear to the company over a successive amount of years, is we're not into an annualised hours event. I think the other thing that's really unacceptable about Royal Mail's proposals is the fact that it is total flexibility. When I say that, because there's another dimension to this that's linked, and that is performance and productivity. Because what they're saying as a side issue, well, they're saying this above and beyond scheme, to which they've shared no detail with us whatsoever. Effectively, that would be based around productivity and efficiency levels that we don't believe will be sustainable. And so effectively, if the productivity and efficiency level that people are going to be expected to achieve in units is not achievable, and we're already seeing that in Royal Mail's year 2 savings proposals, effectively what that means is that places all the burden on the individual, particularly people out on delivery who can't complete. And so one of Royal Mail's things is, and one of the key elements of their flexibility is effectively you will stay out until your workload is completed, which effectively means that you would not have a recognised finish time, and you will be at the behest of the manager. So it's not only annualised hours and a seasonal variation of that, but even within that, on a day-to-day basis, it is total flexibility, and you will be required to work as long as the workload's there. Conversely, if the workload isn't there, effectively you would be clocked out, and those hours would be banked, and you'd be expected to come in another day once again on a flexible basis when they were there. So that is an unacceptable position to us. In the pathway to change, we accepted that the rollout of sign-in, sign-out technology through for a lanyard, for your swipe card, for your security pass equipment, but that was basically and very simply just to replace the existing signing in and out processes that exist now. So the signing in and out sheets. What we have not signed up to, and this is where Royal Mail want to breach and go further than our current agreements, is the use of technology to effectively monitor pay, influence pay. Added to that, the use of technology through PDA OA data, which delivery people will know, tracks them as they're going around on their routes. And so to use that data basically in a very flexible way and make people effectively be at the behest of the manager every day that they come in to work, not knowing really when they were going to finish and being committed to only finishing once that workload is completed.
One of the, obviously, I'm sure members, because this is the other thing as well, you were saying just what some of this stuff which Royal Mail have put out, they've left huge gaps in terms of, some of
for obvious reasons.
I'm sure members watching and listening to Mark there will realise exactly why they've done that. The other thing, alongside that sort of, daily sort of total flexibility in front of your phrase, which I think is a really powerful one, is they've said, we'll let you know of any shift pattern changes between 4 to 10 weeks time. I actually saw some of our rest day covers going about being better than the 1 day notice we get now. But actually, even that, it's a significant thing, isn't it? People build their lives around their job, and at 4 weeks notice, they can rock on and go, now we're changing 2x and that. This is, to coin your phrase again, Mark, this is them saying we want total control of your working life, isn't it?
It is. And, there's that expression around work-life balance. And, this approach goes completely outside of that. I was interested actually in quite a lot of things that Simon Thompson says and writes. But one of the other things that he was saying in the announcements last week was around the fact that everyone starts and finishes at the same time in delivery, which tosh is complete and utter nonsense, because that is just not true.
I want to know, by the way, he said that the CW negotiating team are gurning at him. Is that you, Mark?
No, I'm not known for gurning. Not unless someone on here is going to tell me differently. I'll be saying that is, well, I don't know. Don't want to comment on some of the things Simon Thompson says.
Thank you, mate. Again, so more flexibility, the 24/7 point. So again, put a caveat on this for the Sunday working. There's a recognition. We've talked about this over years and years. The unions talked about over years. We're not a union that's going to turn away work, or we're not Luddites or anything like that. But we want our members looked after in the middle of that. Some of the stuff on Sundays has got a real reaction from our members. So I'm thinking stuff like the mandatory nature of it, also the move to remove premium payments as a result of it, and people like simply saying that is the day I have currently over my 5 days of a 6 duty structure with my family. I'm just not up for that. And actually quite a few members basically saying I'll have to leave the industry if that stuff comes in. Your view on their position on Sundays, and maybe a bit about what we're thinking?
On Royal Mail's position, well, first of all, I find it really insulting on Sundays per se, because it's almost like we might not have been gurning. So I certainly wasn't gurning them across the table. But when on the rare occurrence when they've actually sat down in front of us and wanted to talk to us, which hasn't been that frequent at all, despite what they're saying, that's nonsense. One of their sort of pitches to us is almost like we're the ones that are holding back the company and getting into the Sunday market, which is frankly insulting, because we actually we encouraged the Sunday trial, and certainly in London in the M25 area, first of all, was a pre-runner to us then insisting in the Pathway to Change agreement that Royal Mail had to get into the Sunday operation. Now, Royal Mail has to get into the Sunday operation because, if you're a retailer, a big retailer, you want a one-stop shop in terms of handing all your volume over. And if Royal Mail are not in that market, you won't just lose the Sunday products from those retailers, you'll lose the Monday to Saturday volume as well. Now, we're alive to that. We're not stupid. And so, therefore, we pushed Royal Mail in the Pathway to Change words to include Sundays. Now, it was quite contentious at the time of the agreement. I know it received a lot of inquiries. And so, it's an issue we've still got to deal with. It's got to be dealt with in the right way, not in a. Now, we've said that it should be voluntary. What we want to come up with. You've got to remember that the pathway to change also has other benefits in there, such as 35-hour working week, such as innovative attendance patterns. See, this is the part that Royal Mail remitting from the debate, and it's now completely absent from it. So one of the things we wanted to work on, and we've got to come up with better and more robust ways of staffing Sunday, but not in a compulsory way, because we want to get to a point where we've got 35-hour working weeks, 3 and 4 day working, innovative attendances, and we want people to want to do it. So it's a completely different mindset and approach to it, the way that Royal Mail are pushing it. The other thing we want to look at is, well, in terms of the payment for it, there are other ways of recompensing the value of an hour on a Sunday. So, for example, notional hours. So the value of working on a Sunday, working 1 hour is maybe the equivalent of 1.5 or 2 hours or whatever. And so you do less attendances throughout the week to compensate for that. So all of those things are in the mix for our ideas. But one thing we're absolutely determined is it wouldn't be a compulsory move. And I have to be honest, when I go out and do meetings for members, and members are concerned about that. The threat of compulsion on a Sunday, it's got to be dealt with in the right way. There is a staffing issue at the moment over it. I've got to say, Royal Mail management ain't helped that, or haven't helped that one iota. It's been us all the way through it, who've tried to push better resourcing, better engagement, the fact that it's not measured properly in terms of performance, all the rest of it. And we've had lots of examples where managers themselves have not been quick enough to. There's lots of people out there who do want to work Sundays. We've already got them in customer service points and other parts of the organisation. So it will suit some people. For example, if you've got childcare arrangements and things like that, it's very expensive childcare arrangements. And so if you've got 2 people who are juggling and looking after kids and working, be able to work weekends and things like that. So there's lots of ideas we can come up with. It's just the company all of a sudden have chosen this dictatorial sort of approach to everything.
I mean, on the sort of issues, I want to keep it just strictly to delivery at the minute, and I want to get your thoughts on some of the wider issues. Later start times has caused like a hell of a kickback since Royal Mail put their document out. And in their own words, then their title to this I found hugely amusing, which was, "We know this change would disrupt your current day, so we plan to phase it over 3 years." So I do want to piss you off today. But they're quite explicit from them. By the end, we expect 20% of the team would need to move up to 1 hour, 70% up to 2 hours, and the rest up to 3 hours. I mean, that is the bulk of our members, like 80% going 2 to 3 hours on, isn't it? I mean, I understand from like listening to yourself at the briefing last week that we are opposed to that on the basis that it's not needed. And the other thing that I was thinking about the media that we're doing over the next couple of weeks, when much like our colleagues in the RMT were accused of being dinosaurs and things like that, is Royal Mail must be the only company in the world who claim to be modernising and then getting the product there later. I mean, it's so bonkers, isn't it?
But it is, but I suppose to a degree that's been consistent all the way through the narrative of, for those of us who've been around quite a long while. I remember the 2 delivery structure and all the rest of it. I mean, we used to be out on the street on the first delivery, and you should have 9:30 last letter. National, I think it was 9:15 in London, and we used to manage to connect all of that mail and still be out on delivery by sort of 6:45. For first delivery is 7 o'clock, So, and then we had automation, we had letters automation, etc., all of which has shifted the day back later and later. I mean, on this, look, I mean, this is purely a cost-cutting exercise because it's been dressed up in 2 ways, because the narrative has changed in the last
environmental, wasn't it?
First of all, it was the environmental challenge, which now seems to have evaporated, and we're now back onto this. It's because customers want to post stuff later into the network. But it doesn't make any sense, because on that latter point, the move or the executive action and the creation of 346 hubs actually picks up all that LAT later network anyway. So the excuse now that's been given to make every whole of the core later to connect more LAT work, when the proposal is to connect that LAT work to circa 346 hubs, doesn't hold any water. It's a contradiction. Now, in terms of making the day back later, it is deeply unpopular. It's deeply unpopular with our members for obvious reasons. I mean, culturally, in Royal Mail, it has always been an earlier start, albeit, as I said, it has got gradually later over the years. But even leaving that aside, and that's for our members, that's important. But even leaving that aside, from a service point of view, it doesn't make any sense, because, well, it does if you want to do what Simon Thompson now wants to do. And I think as this debate unfolds, I mean, this is a good open forum. Maybe he'll engage and we can have this debate out in the air. And you're seeing it. People in delivery offices are seeing it now. Our reps are seeing it. Our members are seeing it. And that is that there's no real commitment to two-dimensional products. What I'm talking about is letters and door-to-door. All of the focus at the moment is on parcels. I mean, the CEO is coming out basically saying that, well, we're now a parcels company that delivers letters, and we've got to switch. And look, we understand the changing dynamic in where parcel growth is, but equally, what company, what leader of a company would effectively, on record, go and say that, well, it's only 40% of our volume now, it doesn't really matter.
Yes.
I mean, it's madness. So abandoning the AM period just for the concentration of parcels would destroy the service. It would be deeply unpopular with our members. And I want the other thing that operationally, now they've countered this. They've said, well, this narrative around people have to go out to 8 o'clock at night is nonsense. Well, you spoke about the flexibility proposals earlier on. So let's think this through then. So this is under Royal Mail's vision. You're going to work longer hours in the winter months. That's basically what they're saying. You're going to go out up to 2 to 3 hours later. Yeah. So if you're going out at 10 o'clock now, that's going to be 12, 1 o'clock. I mean, I'm not Albert Einstein, but I know in this country by 3:30, it's getting dark, isn't it? Yeah. Now, is that what we're talking about? Are we talking about a letters service and delivering a universal service at 4, 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the evening? Because that's the way the maths stack up, unless you're talking about a part-time job. You're talking about a full-time job and not going out till lunchtime. I'm sorry, that equates to 7, 8 o'clock to me. So it just doesn't make any sense. It's unpopular. It will devalue the product. It's not practical. You've already seen it. We had an example over the last few weeks where we've had excessive heat. Yeah. And what was the first thing the company said? Get out earlier. Yeah. So once again, none of it makes any sense.
We're just thinking
that. It doesn't make any sense operationally. The only way you can try and justify that, I wish they'd just come out and say it, is its cost. Yeah. It's not environmental. It's nothing to do with the LAT. It doesn't improve service. In fact, it will harm it and reduce it. It'll abandon the AM period. So there's no logic to it other than it's pounds and shillings.
I was thinking, the point you were making there about the environment, not the environment, sorry, climate change. And I've seen on workplace that, Simon Thompson's, good sort of advocate, what's going on with climate change, which is a positive thing, and we need to take, action on that, and the union supports that as well, the introduction of electric vehicles, but we are going to, all the science says we're going to see more days like we had last week. And then on the flip side of that, the point you were making there, which is really effective, is obviously in the winter, there's a safety issue surely as well with some, sending our workplace out in the dark in some of these places, in some of the communities that we serve across the UK as well. So all around it just doesn't seem for the customers or our members like a sensible thing. Your point, it's got to come down to one thing, isn't it?
It's cost.
On linking to cost, it is a lot of stuff that links to cost, but I want to talk to you about absence policy, and we're going to get some stuff from Carl Maiden on this as well. But again, another opportunity for cost, it seems, because there's a big focus on sort of like on workplace, on Royal Mail and other forums saying basically, most of you are good as gold. You take hardly any sick, but you need to get into those in your office who do take sick. And I think the quote in the the article was something like 70% of absences from 25% of our team, and they're talking obviously reducing the sick absence period, moving to more statutory sick pay and stuff like that, reducing the payments for people leaving on ill health. I mean, this isn't a company that's looking after people. I interviewed with Terry Pullinger, Simon Thompson, when he took over. And I can remember him saying, we're very proud to be the best employer with the best terms and conditions in the industry. These set of proposals seem to be quite the opposite to that. What would your take be on sick pay? And I'll probably bolt on to that if I can, Mark, they're chased down on allowances as well.
It's a race to the bottom, isn't it? I mean, it's the only way you can. I mean, we've just gone through a pandemic. We've gone through a situation where we've asked our members as key workers, and they've stepped up to the plate, and they've delivered literally for the country, for the company, for society as a whole. And I think they've enshrined their true value to the UK society.
Mm-hmm.
The only people who they don't seem to have enshrined their value to is the people who actually run the company and the shareholders who now seem to have priority over just about everything and every decision. I mean, the attack on sick pay. I mean, this is not strictly you mentioned it's Coles.
Yeah,
it's Coles.
What was your point? You've got so many members.
But I mean, if there's a specific issue with people, if they're saying that there's 25% of people that I'm not sure that I would go as far as saying abuse it or whatever, or playing the game, effectively that's their influence. Well, then deal with those people in the right way. I'm not talking about in the wrong way, but then deal with those people in the right way. Don't destroy everybody's terms and conditions and attack the workforce when there's not an issue. But all of these proposals, the attack on new entrants, two-tier workforce, reductions in sick pay, attacks on allowances. I mean, on the allowances themselves, some of those have been in play for a very long while. I mean, the one they keep striking out about the post-bus allowance, I think there's probably about 3 people who probably still receive that. Good luck to the 3 people or however many it is you do, but once again, it's the whole approach from them though is designed to get us at it, to get the members divided. So this 25%. So it's a divisive policy, it's a divisive attempt for people to look inwardly at each other and start blaming themselves. Oh, it's your fault that the company's not doing well. It's your fault that sick pay is being attacked for everybody. It's your fault that you're getting this allowance and I don't get it. And it's to put member against member. It won't be successful. Our members will not accept that. I mean, in terms of like sick pay, I know through personal experience, family member at the moment who's off and don't get no pay other than statutory sick pay. Is that you're looked upon by an employer as a burden if you can't come into work every day. That's not a. I'll repeat. Our members have been through the pandemic. They came in. They put themselves at risk. They put their families' lives at risk as well during the pandemic as key workers. Only now to be effectively labelled as people who are just malingerers, or it's just shameful. All of it is shameful.
I mean, just coming our comments up, we've been on a little while now. I want to sort of come to the point of what's at stake, and then obviously give you the opportunity to set out any more issues. But people obviously there's a small window, as we talked about at the start of the show, for people to sort of get their heads around this, because ballot papers land in from Thursday. You've talked through there. I mean, I think, to be honest with you, the way you set that out with all the issues with the flexibility, with the later starts, with all the sort of positions of Royal Mail to Sundays, etc. I can only imagine our delivery members they're desperate for that ballot paper to drop through the door so they can vote and vote yes. But just how important is it? Because obviously, we're going to speak to all of our groups of members. We'll speak to the other officers as well and the areas. But a huge swathe of our membership sits in delivery offices. Just for you as their national officer, I'm asking, how important is it that come Thursday we see exactly the same, if not more, enthusiasm we saw in the last ballot, and we get the biggest possible yes vote and turnout from our delivery members in this ballot.
It really is, because it'll be measured, won't it? I mean, we've set ourselves a very high bar, and I'm glad that we've done that. But nevertheless, that is a bar that we need to overcome if we can. As a negotiator, you know, sitting eyeball to eyeball across the table on a national basis from the employer, obviously, I want the biggest mandate. We want the biggest mandate as an organisation that we can possibly get. So, because they'll deduce from that, you know, whether the strength of feeling is as strong as it should be, or maybe, you know, so they'll look at that and they'll judge for themselves, you know, how determined our members are. Now, I want to say to our members, we've got an agreement that deals with change. We're not, you know, the accusation that we don't deal with change, we don't want to move things forward. You know, we're not the ones who, you know, stand in the way of stuff. If we can see a progressive way forward and it's of mutual interest, we get benefits, you get benefits, and it protects your job overall and does the right thing, we'll make the right decisions for you and the industry. But at the moment, the company's position is completely unacceptable. We need the biggest possible mandate from you that we can get. So I'm imploring yourselves out there and all our reps to do everything you possibly can do to get the ballot papers back, to give us a massive mandate, so we can get the agreement that you absolutely deserve. And I think it's Terry who says, you know, you get what you don't get. What's the expression he says? You get from a position of strength.
Where you negotiate.
Well, you negotiate. You can only negotiate that from an absolute position of strength with the biggest possible mandate. So get the ballot papers back. Do everything you can. You know, we're in your corner, but we need you in our corner as well to give us that impetus to go and get the agreement that you so richly deserve.
Thank you, Mark. So I want to say thanks to you for your time. Also, we can see soon at one point there was 2,500 members online, which is fantastic. And if you could do something for Mark and I afterwards, it would be to share the link, get out there in your WhatsApp groups and all your communities, play it in Work Time Learning tomorrow. Actually, not tomorrow, because not tomorrow you'll be attending National Gate Meeting Day. So, yeah, get a gate meeting going in your office. That's our final message. Anything you want to just sum up with, Mark?
No, I mean, just to re-emphasize, you know, I know other trade unions might be a little bit battle weary. I don't believe our members are like that. I don't believe our reps are like that. All the, you know, to say to yourselves, all the messages that we're getting back from the feedback from the reps and from our members is really positive in terms of backing the union. And I know you'll back this union 100%. And with your backing, as I say, we'll get the agreement that you absolutely deserve.
Thank you for your time, Mark, and take it easy, everyone. We'll speak to you.